Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Aeroplane here, and I'm not sure how many of you saw my previous build showcase for Herald Thunder Autobomber, so I thought to give a build guide on how I built my Autobomber, what goes into it, what are the little nuances and mechanics that go into it, and what is this build all about. So this is, disclaimer alert, not an overpowered build. Since the 3.15 sweeping nerfs to the gems, initially, before they reverted the mana nerfs, we actually reserved more than 100% mana with a 6-link Herald of Thunder, which means that without a Herald Reservation Helm, you can't actually play the build, which was crazy actually. But after they reverted it, you don't actually need the Helm enchant to reduce your reservation to play the build. And it reserves, I think, like 75% of your mana on a 6-link, which is fine, which is good enough. It is not a cheap build by any means. I would recommend only starting at 50x of investment. Before that, it'll probably feel quite bad. It's not a high-end content build, so don't expect to be doing any form of deli-farming, logbook farming, things like that. And don't expect to kill the fiat with this build. We are lacking damage in many ways, and it's kind of a niche content to do like fast mapping, and of course you can do bossing like Cyrus A9 I have to showcase. It's not that bad, it's quite fast, especially with a single boss, but it's not like survivable in very hectic situations like the hidden or the fiat, things like that, logbooks. Mobs get very tanky, a lot of mobs, and you don't really fare very well in terms of lots of bossing mobs together, but you clear packs well. You're carried by Inpulsas for clear in maps. For single boss like Cyrus is still okay because all the Herald of Thunder, it's all pummeled into a single unit. So I built this character, and I usually it's kind of like a reroll build for me, and I think it should be for most of you as well. Probably just respec into an Inquisitor if you already have like a Hierophant totem, Forbidden Right totem, dirty gamer. But for me, I spec'd out of an Arc totem, very responsible, very ethical gamer, into this Inquisitor build and tried it out, and taken a lot of build ideas and inspiration from other build guides and the other Herald of Thunder players on the ladder, and culminating into the build that I have here today. Okay, so to start off, I'll probably just give an example of how you map with this build, and I'm gonna just showcase how we can map without a hit hunter. So I saw some comments on my previous video. Many of us can't afford a hit hunter. How can you showcase the build with this? So yeah, I'm just gonna map without a hit hunter, just a random Stygian. I threw an essence on, just for the dex, because the hit hunter provides so much dex and min-max to the point where it can't work without the hit hunter. So I need the dex, so I just crafted on. It like has 10 life on that belt or something. So yeah, just gonna go. So you can see the gameplay to start off the Herald of Thunder. We just need to shock an enemy. So it's using just Stormbrand. I just drop the Stormbrand, shock an enemy, and then go. So most of the map should be carried by Impulsas with Storm's Gift, spreading the shock, and you can see that explodes. All you need to do is just run through the map. You should have enough damage unless you rolled a lot of tanky damage mods. You might take a little bit longer if you have less investment, but it should be a very similar playstyle. Once you kill a mob, everything explodes. That's pretty much it. So all I'm doing is just popping some movement skills, so you can use anything here. For me, I use a combination of Smoke Mine, Flame Dash, and then I pop my Phase Run to move through the map a bit more quickly. And you can see that I'm actually not pressing any of my flask at all. All of them are auto-triggering. I'm using the instilling orbs on the flask so that they just trigger when they're full, which you'll see later. I'm gonna skip this expedition so we can get into the build right after this. So yeah, this is just a gameplay of how you can play with this build. Be careful, they're shooting so many balls out. So when there are two bosses, it actually gets it's a direct nerf to your damage. You do like half damage, so you can see it took a little bit longer than expected, but it's not that long, just a couple of seconds. Alright, so yeah, that was the build showcase without a hit hunter. Okay, so yeah, let's get into it. So what is the bare minimum for the build? Firstly, you need a lone messenger. It is a Herald of Thunder build, so you are using the Herald. So what comes to mind when you're using Herald to do damage? Of course, it's the lone messenger. You only can have one Herald, 50% more effect of Herald buffs that doesn't affect you, 100% more damage with hits from Herald skill. So that's the line that we are looking at. So you just pretty much double your damage, right? 100% more damage from hits, and that is what we're using. Yep, so number 1, you need Lone Messenger. Number 2, you need 2 Storm Secret Rings. So you can see that to proc your Herald of Thunder, traditionally with just the Herald of Thunder gem, you need to kill a shocked enemy to proc your Herald of Thunder. With the Storm Secret, all you need to do is just shock an enemy. So you can see when I enter a map, I just drop my Storm Brand, shocks an enemy, and the Heralds start flying. And that's when you can just start running through the map. So I recommend 2 Storm Secrets. 1 will work, but you want to just go all in on that increased frequency for the Herald of Thunder, because this is the build after all. And the downside of this is, of course, you'll take 250 lightning damage when you hit an enemy, but we'll talk about that later on. So I think with the full frequency, you hit something like with perfect Storm Secret Rings, I think you hit like 8 times a second. If not, you hit somewhere between 7 point something times a second, I think. Okay, so and of course to play this build you will need Inpulsas. It doesn't need to be 6 linked, you can be like 4 linked. You just need the Inpulsas, and the main mod here that you want to look at is the Explodey mod, which has been nerfed continuously over the past few leagues, but this one remains untouched with a 100% chance to explode. But the catch here is that you need to kill a shocked enemy. So what you want to do is that you want to pair that with Storm's Gift, because there's another catch here, is that when you kill a shocked enemy, it explodes. The explosion of that enemy that you just killed doesn't shock, which means that in the radius of the enemies that you killed, it will explode, killing the enemy beside it. But it stops there, it doesn't chain the explosion. So to make sure that it chains, you use Storm's Gift, which spreads the shock, which means it shocks the next enemy, and then it explodes. It shocks the next enemy, it explodes. So that you can see that beautiful cascade of explosions and carries the cleared maps. Next, I would say the bare minimum is to get Doriyani's Glorious Vanity, which will give you huge amounts of EHP, giving you bonus from a nearby keystone, which will convert it to corrupt the soul, giving you more EHP from the max life as ES, and spreading your damage across your ES and life, which ties in very well with the ascendency. So I'll talk about that later. So yeah, that's probably the bare minimum. You want those to start off, and a couple of clusters, which I'll get into in just a bit. Okay, so important thing for the build. So I got a PM, like I think earlier today. It was like one guy who was like, why am I losing life? Okay, so the most important thing is that Storm Secret Rings is part of the build to make it work, and one of the downsides is that you'll take 250 lightning damage from when a Herald of Thunder hits an enemy. You hit enemy 8 times, you take, I don't know, 2000 damage, which is reduced by your resistances. Which is an important thing. So you want to make sure that you're kept on your resistances at 75%. For me, I have 76. I'll talk about that later as well. So to reduce that damage that you're doing on yourself. Okay, so Inquisitor is there are other variants of HoT. There's Elementalist, which does more damage, but the most survivable class of the 3, which is Assassin, Elementalist, and Inquisitor that I've seen would be the Inquisitor, because of its pious path. When you stand still, it procs Consecrated Ground. You can see over here, grants life regeneration, and all your life regeneration is applied to your ES. So you can see here I'm regenerating 495, and you can see my ES is also 495. So many other builds struggle with regenerating energy shield, and that's not a problem for Inquisitor. So for classes like Elementalist, I have a friend playing that. He said that a big issue is that he just walks around with no energy shield, just because the Herald of Thunder hits himself, energy shield goes to 0, and you don't have enough leech to overcome the damage that you're taking from the Herald of Thunder hits on you, and you just walk around with just life as your only one-shot defense. So other ascendancies don't have this kind of regeneration and sustain. So we have other things such as Replica, Fragile Bloom. So I think I watched a Jong Ruan video, and he recommended this in his Elementalist HoT build from last league, I think. So yeah, I incorporated that into this build. Really provides huge amounts of regen. So with 5 stacks of fragile regrowth, you get 3.5 life regen per second. So you can see that when I remove it, oh, it doesn't really affect. Oh, because I don't have the fragile regrowth. So for us, when we're in maps, we'll be constantly hitting ourselves. So we maxed out on the fragile bloom to give that regen, which is very nice. And along with enduring composure, we hit ourselves and we just go max endurance charges for the whole way, and this provides defenses for us. One thing that we also included in the build, which is boot enchant. Uberlap boot enchant gives 2% life regen per second. It's good to have, which provides additional sustain, and stone golem, of course. So the stone golem would just give life regen. So one thing I've considered is also vitality for regeneration, and that's one thing that you can consider, which I haven't incorporated in the build yet. Second thing, important thing to note, is that HoT is not a spell. So I've seen some HoT gamers on POE Ninja, I think it was like 2 days ago, and I saw the person adding these crit clusters, like arcane potency. This doesn't work. HoT is not a spell. If you hover over it, you can see that it's a spell, but it won't be affecting the lightning hits that will be proccing from that. So it doesn't actually increase the crit chance for HoT. So you just need to take note of not taking these spell crit nodes and just go for generic crits like these, like global crit chance for staffs that we're using, and the like counterweight over here. Yeah, so these nodes won't work if you were to use like arcane potency or annihilation, because it clearly says spells, and just take note of that for your jewels as well. Don't get for crit multi for spells, so that doesn't work. Number 3, playstyle. So you just need to take note of the HoT playstyle. Before this I was playing totems, and it's a very different playstyle. You need to stand away from the mobs rather than running into full packs of 100 mobs, you know. So you wanna, in maps, you'll figure out eventually, after playing like 5 to 10 maps, how you can position yourself a bit better. When there's huge packs, you wanna stand in the edge such that you hit only one mob, so all your lightning is just hitting that one mob, it explodes, cascades, wipes the pack. So that's the playstyle. Map mods are also crucial. I mentioned earlier, life regeneration. You can't do no regen, you can't do less recovery, you can't do early reflect, and there's many other mods which kinda gimps your playstyle a bit. I don't like playing in temporal chains maps since the curse immunity rework. You can be 100% curse immune. So you might want to remove like temp chains, this reduced AoE, which reduces your explode radius, might feel bad, and stacking huge amounts of reduced damage, ally equilibrium with a reduced crit, with monster life. It gets spicy at times with these stacking mods, so you might want to reroll to kind of make your time in maps a bit better. Alright, so next point, what makes the build good enough to play? So right now I have like the 3 best stat Kulamag that I figure out a way to build around with the support gems that I have, but it's not necessary. All you need is just 2 mods, 2 sufficient mods, and I'm just gonna pull up my POB over here. So you can see this is my staff right now. I got +3 socketed gems, deals double damage, and multi with rare or unique nearby. Those are the 3 best mods that you want to look out for this build with how I built it. Of course, it might not be the best. There might be another combination, but I believe there's only 4 mods on the Kulamag that will benefit Herald of Thunder Autobombing, and that is these 3 mods, as well as the lightning damage mod, which is pretty good as well. So it deals like, I think, close to 200% increased lightning damage and chance to shock, which is really nice for the build. And yeah, so you don't really need this stuff. So if you were to get, I just POE trade, you search for 20 chaos staff, which has 2 mods of +3 socketed supports and deal double damage. You can see that we don't actually lose that much damage. It goes from 3.3 to 30% more damage with the actual 3 mod best prop stuff. So you don't need to straight away go into this 3 mod stuff, and just look for two good mods as a good starting point. What makes the build good enough to play, apart from the staff, is Inpulsas plus Storm's Gift that I talked about, the interaction for the map clear. Third thing is the cluster jewels. So you wanna have the clusters. So in this case, you want to have 2 sets of 8 clusters, 8 passive clusters. So you want to make sure that it's either lightning or elemental cluster, and you want to have 8 passive skills, so you reduce the amount of skill points you need to path to grab the notables. And with these two 8 passives, you will have 4 mediums, and the 4 mediums are exactly the same based on how I set it up. Self-fulfilling prophecy, which gives Herald of Thunder the base crit, so by default Herald of Thunder doesn't crit at all, so you need self-fulfilling. Stack up 4 of these and you have a 4% base crit, which is how you scale your crit on the Inquisitor build. Elementalist doesn't go crit, it just goes a full elemental damage with empowered envoy instead of self-fulfilling. But for us, we go self-fulfilling with Dark Messenger for quality of life, with the Herald seeking AoE range, so you can stand further away from mobs, giving you better safety. Number 4, so the jewels, I talked about Replica, Fragile Bloom for increased regeneration, and what I would recommend is just grab a Corrupted Blood Cannot Be Inflicted on You jewel. You'll be hitting monsters a lot, it'll stack up really fast. You want this Corrupted Immunity jewel, and it saves you a flask slot of having a more reactive play, so this is more preemptive play. So I highly recommend a Corrupted Blood Immunity jewel. Then moving on to the luxury upgrades. So of course a good cane increases your DPS by a lot. And unnatural instinct, you put it over here in the Scion tree, giving you all these mods that you see over here with very few skill points required. So you just need like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points to get all of these. So yeah, it's really nice. Some regeneration, some AoE, some life, some stats, which is really nice. Bottled Faith, which gives you a huge damage boost, so you can see that without Bottled Faith, we actually deal significantly less damage. It gives a 20% damage boost. With my current Bottled Faith, if it's better rolled, it can go even higher. Next is the Helm Enchant, which I have currently, Herald of Thunder Reduced Reservation. It's not necessary by any means, but if you do have a Herald of Thunder Reduced Reservation, it's probably going for like 1x or so on trade, I think. If you have that, you're able to fit in Aspect of Spider, because without the Helm Enchant, you will actually take 73% mana to reserve for your Herald of Thunder. With it, it reduces it to 51.1%, allowing you to fit in Aspect of Spider, which gives you 15% more damage, which is insane. Next is of course luxury upgrade will be to grab a +2 amulet. I currently have a +1 with multi, and of course the future upgrade will be to get an awakened +2 amulet with +1 lightning gems, +1 in gems, I think, with multi of course, and you get pretty much your best in slot amulet. Headhunter for mapping, I really like using Headhunter for mapping. You can take a look at my showcase video, and that's what I use for mapping generally. Another upgrade would be 5 passive voices, which will allow you to fit in 1 more cluster, giving us a base crit of 5 with 1 more medium cluster. That's a potential upgrade. You can go 3 passive, not sure how much it is, somewhere in the region of 30 exalts, I think. I think 1 passive is somewhere in between 1 to 2 mirrors. Probably not the play there. And of course, lastly, a luxury upgrade would be to get a elusive Tailwind boots. Even better if you can get onslaught and kill, but we are quite starved for resistances, so I haven't upgraded yet to try to fit that into the build because it's a bit tricky. So yeah, that's my next upgrade. Onto the interesting mechanics for the build. Firstly is gem interactions. Okay, so Herald of Thunder, you can see that it's a level 29 Herald of Thunder in our staff. What we have done is we have linked Empower level 4 into the staff with +3 socketed support gems, making a level 7 Empower, giving 6 levels to Herald of Thunder. We have base Herald of Thunder of 21, 21 plus 6 gives you 27. We have +1 from the amulet, bringing it to 28. Did I miss a number there? Oh yeah, sorry, +7 from the support apparently. Yeah, because we get a +3 from the socketed support gems as well. Base into into a +6, yeah, something like that, bring it to 29. So yeah, that is our gem interaction, and what's really cool here, apart from that, would be the Awakened Added Lightning. Yeah, so that's the other one, which is adds one more level, bringing it to 29, because at level 5, Awaken at Lightning gives a +1 to supported lightning gems, bringing it up a little bit more, and that's buffed up even more from the Cane, which gives a +3, which means you actually need only a +2 Awaken at the Lightning to get that bonus, which is really cool. And we have Inspiration Socketed. So Herald of Thunder doesn't actually cost mana when it's reserved. It doesn't consume any mana and therefore doesn't provide any inspiration bonus. But what happens when we link this and we have another inspiration socketed somewhere, generating inspiration charges? Herald of Thunder actually benefits with giving you more elemental damage and critical strike chance. So having the inspiration in the cast when damage taken setup ensures full uptime on the inspiration charges, making it the best support gem to be used in this situation. Another cool interaction is that because we're hitting ourselves with Storm Secret, we can use cast and damage taken as an interaction. This procs multiple spells. In this case, procs Assassin's Mark, Cold Snap, and I was trying out Cold Snap with Culling Strike. I have recolored my body, changed the gems at least 10 times since I started the build, trying to figure out. But yeah, the main interaction here is cast and damage taken, Assassin's Mark with Cold Snap, giving you inspiration charges, as well as being able to proc all of these continually as we go on. So the 3.15 changes actually made the cast when damage taken cost mana, and this allows us to use inspiration support to be able to generate the charges, which buffs up our Herald of Thunder. Casting Cold Snap while mapping continually gives us infinite frenzy charges when we kill mobs affected by Cold Snap Chilling Ground, and this allows us to be able to have increased duration for phase run, as well as proc our Rock Guard for Onslaught while mapping. So secondly is the Flask as an interesting mechanic. The Rock Guard, which I mentioned earlier, generating frenzy charges with cast and damage taking Cold Snap, killing the enemy, giving us frenzy charges, proccing Rock Guard to give us Onslaught based on frenzy charges consumed. That's one of it. All my flasks have use when charges reach full that I mentioned earlier, and this is using the Instilling Orb from this leak mechanic, introduced this leak, allows us to be used on certain conditions, so I just crafted all my utility flasks. So if you don't have Battle Rouse on the skill tree, so thanks to a viewer who added in the comments, I given it a try. It felt really good that I can drop a mana flask. So previously I was using Enduring Mana Flask to be able to sustain my cast when damage taken setups because it continually consumes mana. But Battle Rouse actually lets me use 3 points on the tree to be able to recoup my mana based on damage taken, which is pretty much infinite mana sustain, which is insane. So yeah, thanks so much for that, whoever commented on the video. And this freed up a flask slot for me, which means I have one more flask slot to use, and some of the flasks that I considered was like Overflowing Chalice, Roomies of course that I'm using here now, and you can use any other kinds of defensive flasks that you want. You can use a Quartz for phasing, things like that, but I chose Roomies, giving it a go. I think stacking block chance is not too bad. We currently have base 30-10, 30 attack block and 10% spell block. So over here, pop the Roomies, we go 41-16, which is pretty nice defense to add in, so I'm giving it a try. Yeah, so that's the interesting mechanics. You want to get a perfect Aziri's Promise, not that expensive I think, for 8% elemental damage. You can see over here. Yeah, it's just 10 chaos, 15 chaos to grab one with perfect elemental damage. You want to get this is good to have for Bottled Faith. Yeah, so that's the second one. Third one is the ability to get elemental immunity. So that was one other concern this league when they gutted that. So what I did was the Path to Anointed Flesh, giving you a couple of nice things, which is a +1 max rest. So we are hitting ourselves constantly with lightning damage. So increasing our max rest by 1 more % significantly reduces. Helps to reduce the amount of damage we take and increasing our survivability. Of course, it provides other things as well, such as reduced ailment duration with Path by the Center, giving reduced freeze duration, along with 15% elemental ailment duration. So this cluster actually gives you 50% reduced ailment duration for freeze and chill. And if you pair that with the Soul of the Brine King, you actually have 100% chill immunity with 50% freeze reduction duration. And yeah, so that's the Anointed Flesh node. What I previously used was anti-freeze on my flask so that I won't be frozen in a reactive scenario. You can have use when frozen on this flask by using Instilling Orb. That's what I previously used. But what I actually got for myself was a 50% reduced ailment duration synthesized Storm's Gift, which gives me complete ailment immunity while mapping, so that of course certain conditions have to be met, the ailment has to be applied on you, therefore reducing the duration by 100%. But yeah, generally you won't get ignited when enemies hit you, you won't get shocked, you won't get frozen, you won't get chilled when enemies hit you, along with I think set brittle and whatever that is, the last one. So yeah, immune to hits, anything that mobs apply to you on the map, you're completely ailment immune. Of course, it doesn't reduce the effect of burning ground, for example, because that's not a duration ailment. You just get burned by the ground, things like that. And you're affected by shock ground as well, but actually not affected by shock ground because we have Inpulsas, which you'll see the shock mod on you, but you're actually unaffected by shock because of Inpulsas. So that's pretty cool. Alright, so yeah, that's some interesting mechanics for the build. And that's pretty much what I want to talk about, how you can scale the build. For myself, my upgrades will be a double influence helm. There's some cool mods you can have. In my case, I got extremely lucky crafting this yesterday. I was getting the multi mod, crit multi, by doing reforge crit. I was casually using all my harvest reforges in Haywalk. I did a life reforge, I got tier 1 life with power charge, and that was insane. And then I meta crafted with prefix cannot be changed, reforge crit. I did that 3 times, 6x, it hurts. Yeah, but in the end I got a tier 2 crit multi with a tier 3 ally resistance, and it was good enough for me. So I'm still at a point where I can recraft this to make it perfect. I mean, with tier 1 crit multi and stuff like that. But in future, the further long-term goal will be to have a double influence helm. There's a couple of nice mods. You can have like regeneration with warlord suffix. You can have, of course, power charge, what I have here, crit for the warlord suffix as well. Elemental damage with warlord prefix. You can have some other cool stuff with other influences, and it's something that I want to explore in the future. Of course, +2 amulet with crit multi as a potential upgrade. And for my boots, that's my current near-term upgrade will be to get elusive boots to get bonus move speed in maps, along with some dodge chance. So yeah, that's my plan moving forward. I think there's quite a number of people on the ladder using no witnesses to get elusive very easily without needing to get elusive boots. I've chosen to use Mark the Prey. I think it's underrated. I think it's really strong. It gives flash charges gain for you, and this league actually you have flash charges staff. I showed Grimro the video. He said that wow, there's some crazy flash sustain. So it's actually from Mark the Prey that gives 30% increased flash charges given to you while mapping, and it's really cool. I mean, you saw just now the mapping, the flash uptime was top notch, and it gives, of course, a huge amount of damage. Marked enemies take 10% increased damage, and it's pretty cool. So yeah, that is my anoint for my amulet. And I really like to map with Headhunter, and I usually reroll to these mapping builds only after I get Headhunter, so don't blame me for showcasing my builds with Headhunter. And I've shown that it's actually viable without, so don't worry too much. But the minimum investment is 50x to grab all these clusters. You don't necessarily need to get 3 passive clusters, like you can see the one over here. This one's a 2 passive cluster. Importantly, you want 1 mod of doriyani's lesson for some elemental life leech. That's all. Apart from that, you can get a 1 notable and it'll still work. Of course, you just any other notes that you can get with it that helps with the damage or defense, whatever. It's good to have. So yeah, that's it for my build guide. Hopefully you liked and enjoyed the video. If you did, remember share the video if you want, and subscribe for more content in the future. So yeah, let me know how you guys fare with the build, and hopefully you have a good day.